Yeah, no, because I said that too. I was like, hello, hello. Glad to see a lot of new faces coming for lunch. It is 1 o'clock, and I think we're ready for our presentation from Murray Pierce and Tobin Shearer, Demystifying Woke. So let's welcome them to the stage.
Okay. Good afternoon again. Thank you. Your mother's taught you well. My name is Murray Pierce. I'm the Director of Multicultural Affairs here at the university, and this is Dr. Tobin Shearer. And Tobin is a professor of African American Studies here and is the chair of the department here. Today we're going to be talking to you about woke and its varying incarnations and what it means to different people to a very large degree. Let me see if I can get this right here. Okay, what are we going to look at today? So we'll look at what is woke, just the whole general question around the nature of what it is that we're here to do today. And again, the many incarnations of woke and wokeness in the historical context in particular. Something called woke capitalism. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then navigating the climate of anti-wokeness, which is pretty pervasive these days, and trying to dissect those things and give a little bit clearer meaning to that. And some concluding thoughts and some questions from you guys. So we'll begin by posing the question, what does it mean to be woke? That question requires an answer. What we're going to do is, how about, Kira, can you come up for a minute, please? Over here, just at the board here. And can we get someone to run the microphone as well? Devin, thank you. I'm anticipating that we're going to have people that are answering this question, and Kira's going to write down those answers. So here's the deal. Here's how I operate, guys. If you don't answer, I'm calling on you. So, okay? So someone raise their hand and tell me just what your perception is. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. Just tell me what your perception is.
Well, if you ask most folks in this room, I would say that it simply means that you're aware of the history of and the implications of various discrimination and biases against racial, ethnic, and other minorities. If you ask a 80-something retiree in some place in Florida, they would probably say it's some combination of buzzwords they've heard on the news, cultural Marxism and anti-America, fill in the blanks. So I think the word has traveled further in the last few years than all the airplanes on the planet combined. So there isn't, in my experience, there isn't really a concrete definition, at least in the overall collective consciousness in the country.
So we're done here now. He's answered everything exactly right. Thank you for that. Somebody else.
I would just say that woke, it does have a lot of different meanings, I guess, depending on who is using the term. I think it has been co-opted into sort of like an idea of like political correctness for a specific like status. So trying to do the right things so that like you don't get like canceled, or like this perception, I guess, is what it kind of has become. Because I think the idea of woke a number of years ago was a lot more like widely like, oh, like you're woke, you're so like aware of racism, and you're very like I guess politically knowledgeable. But now it's kind of become like, oh, you make sure you have like the correct opinions on each thing, like you're woke because you I guess like do exactly what is needed to stay in the proper point of the public eye, more so than like actually being like critically thinking about like racism and oppression and being a good person. It kind of, I don't know, it's become like, it's like the same thing as like being an ally has become like less of like a verb and more of like, oh yeah, I'm an ally, definitely, I'm woke. You know, it's kind of a lot of the meaning's taken away from it, I guess.
There's a couple more. You guys are sharp. A couple more.
I promised myself I wouldn't answer any questions, but here I am. I see woke as all those things that those folks just said, but also I see woke as the establishment, America, see it as you're trying to piss me off. I see it as don't bring me that woke stuff, right? There's a lot of Jedi work, DEI work going on around the country, and with that comes the people that are anti about what you're trying to push. So don't try to piss me off, right? I saw a video, I saw previews of a movie recently. It says it's called American Society of Magical Negroes. And the whole gist of the story was that they have the ability to travel in time, and the whole idea of it was that we don't want to piss white people off, we want to keep them happy. So the work that when we travel in time is to make white people happy. And so my thought about woke is not only is it raising the bar for what we need to do with history and all those things, but it's also the anti-piece of what people don't want to hear anymore.
One more. How about that learned table over here? Anybody over there?
Like, yeah, when I think of woke, it reminds me of the I guess the movement after the George Floyd incident, where folks became enlightened to what's going on in the world and what's happening around them. And I look at woke as being a way of saying, look, we better be more in tune as to what's going on around you and be prepared to deal with what's happening. And that's why I think of it as in the context.
All right, thank you. You're all right. It does have many incarnations. It is morphed from one particular way of looking at the world to a multiple way of looking at things. The Oxford English Dictionary defines it as an alert to injustice, particularly racism, as the gentleman over here first said. And in canvassing the guru of all things intellectual, Wikipedia, it's an adjective that tells us, and meaning that it's something as it relates to a noun, and it's from African American vernacular English, meaning an alert to racial prejudice and discrimination. So there's something that I term the woke circus, right? In its co-opted form, the word has become somewhat carnivalesque and rife with multiple side shows of meaning, something that we've just been talking about here. Cultural Marxism, I think you mentioned that. A left-wing indoctrination strategy. As a divisive term, it's one that differentiates, serves to differentiate that he ain't woke or she ain't woke, right? As an assertion of the moral high ground, those folks over there aren't woke, so why waste your time with it? From a derisive standpoint, oh, now you're gonna bombard me with your wokeness. And as an elitist determination, so all of your high-powered education led you to this woke conclusion. As a state of transcendental consciousness, woke is sought to offer both spiritual and intellectual enlightenment for some. there's a condition that I like to term wokeness before woke, right? Before the term had actual uses, the word had actual uses, there was this sense of wokeness that abounded in enslavement society. That there was, woke was pretty much equivalent to a sense of awareness, right? I need to be aware that this slave master over here has a penchant for beating you if you don't get your chores done on time. I have to be aware that this particular slave master has a penchant for taking young girls from their mother, all those types of things. I have to be aware of certain geographical considerations if I'm gonna run. I gotta know, is it the rainy season? I gotta know if they're gonna be able to follow my tracks. All those different things were a sense of wokeness before actually wokeness ever happened. And I think it's, let's see if we've got that here. Yeah, James Baldwin, in his work, talked about that, talked about his parents having to convey things to him, things that were to some degree secretive, things that spoke to a level of wokeness and understanding that for the most part was something that was amongst black folk and amongst black folk only. So we see that it was a tool, it was a heuristic device, it was a tool to circumvent or evade possible harm, as juxtaposed to the modern day sense of it as a tool to dismantle or deconstruct racist structures, a little bit of what Buddy was talking about here just a little bit ago. So we find its first real existence in print in a movement called the Wide Awakes. The Wide Awakes were formed in 1860, and they were made up of young white men between 18 and 40 years old. They were members all of the Republican Party, and they operated in a couple different fashions. One was kind of like a cheerleader fashion, where they helped to hold parades and they passed out flyers and flags and those things. But another way in which they operated was in terms of a paramilitary standpoint, from a paramilitary standpoint. Elections back in the 1800s were I don't want to say a hell of a lot different. There was a lot more violence. People were killed, they were maimed, they were shot, they were threatened, all of those things for voting. Well, the Wide Awakes wanted to make sure that those Republican candidates, remember the Republican Party at the time was the party of Lincoln, that they were protected. So they stood in protection for them as well too. And it said that their efforts really helped to propel Lincoln to victory. Again, from the political arena, this is Marcus Garvey, and he's evidence of saying the words, wake up, Ethiopia. Marcus Garvey was do you guys know who Marcus Garvey was? Okay. That's one of the many people that you should keep on your radar and take a look at. He was a black nationalist to a very large degree, and he had a number of things. He had was the Black Star Line, is that right? The Black Star Line was a ship line. He wanted to have people move back to Africa and those things, but he was one of the first to utilize that term. It appeared in print media in several different newspapers. This one in particular is the Baltimore American or African American, or the Afro-American as it's termed. And there was an article that was entitled Wake Up, and it was specifically talking about voting rights. Again, from print media, this is from Jay Saunders Redding, who wrote an article about the mine workers' strike at that particular time. And he intoned, "We were asleep, but we will stay woke from now on." Early music references. On the top here, we're looking at Leadbelly. His name was Huddy William Ledbetter, known as Leadbelly. He wrote a song in reference to the Scottsboro Boys. They were the young men that were falsely accused of raping two white women. He wrote a song about that and utilized those lyrics there. And it's said that he co-opted those lyrics from Ramlin Thomas, who, and I bring that up only because many of you are aware of the current battle between intellectual property between Cat Williams and a lot of other comedians that are out there. You guys know about this thing that's going on? How many hands? Wow, okay. Cat Williams, proudly or not, is from Cincinnati, Ohio, so am I. there's this big battle over intellectual property in terms of jokes and things like that, and it's kind of blown up the internet, and it's a widespread thing, and it's just a modern day reference to intellectual property theft. So those things are still happening today. In literature, we're looking at Duke Kelly, who was a writer who basically talked about wokeness in the terms of this was more of a hip language of the time, that is that no Mickey Mouse can be expected to follow today's Negro idiom without a hip assist, meaning basically is that anyone who really wasn't in that circle really could not figure out what was in that circle without talking to someone that was in that circle. So in order to be hip, you had to find somebody else that was hip to, as they said, pull your coattails or school you back in the day. This speaks to a sort of Du Boisian double consciousness. I don't know if we really want to get into that. It may take some time to go through all of that stuff, but there was also the OED, the Oxford English Dictionary, credited Kelly with coining the word woke. I don't know how true that is in terms of the research that I've done, so that may be something that needs to be explored a little bit more. From a social justice standpoint, the word woke really didn't come into play until greater popularity until much later. And during the civil rights movement, the term was consciousness. People talked about having consciousness or raising consciousness. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about woke as it has come to be talked about today. Probably again from a modern day music, I'm going to call 1971 modern, but modern day music standpoint, there's probably no more seminal instance of woke than Marvin Gaye's record, What's Going On. How many of you have heard of this? By show of hands. Okay, that's more than I thought. Those who haven't, I'd suggest you take a listen to it. I don't have any clips from it at this point, given what we're trying to get done today, but there were several tracks on this album that were considered to be the woke man's foray into understanding, right? The first track is What's Going On, and then I think the lyrics go something like, Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying, brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. We've got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Picket signs, picket lines, help me see what's going on. The second track is, again, indicative of somebody that's attempting to find out what's happening in their world. And he's asking, are they still getting down where we used to go and dance? You know, will our ball club win the pennant? Do you think they have a chance? Or tell me, friend, how in the world have you been? So all of that inclined to looking towards whether or not someone is woke or trying to get to a period where they're woke and they're understanding things. Particularly, this came out of the Vietnam War. We got Spike Lee. I'll let Spike kind of tell you what's happening here. I think I can.
The greatest protest songs, greatest art has always come out in times like this. It's artists who are the ones that interpret it.
Wake up!
Do Right Thing opened June 30th, 1989, and is relevant as if it came out yesterday. I think that's a testament to the truths that have been in my films. And just that cry, wake up, is still relevant.
Wake up!
Last line in School Days, wake up.
Please, wake up.
And the first two words, do the right thing.
Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake!
So I think that every film since then, somehow I've had somebody say, wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Wake up, white man. Sorry, who am I talking to?
But not always to the camera, but to somebody else. I love history. A lot of stuff people weren't taught in this country. You know, I grew up learning about the story about George Washington cutting down the cherry tree and he couldn't tell a lie. I was never taught that he owned 123 slaves. I was never taught that Christopher Attucks was the first person to die for the United States of America. And there's so many things that have not been taught. Today, and it's 1983. The murder of Ray Raheem by the NYPD was based upon the murder of the graffiti artist named Michael Stewart by the New York City transit cops.
They killed Radio Raheem's murder. Did it again, just like Michael Stewart.
So 83, Michael Stewart, and the fictional character Ray Raheem. 89, then you got Eric Gardner and King Floyd. How much progress has it been? You see what is happening recently, far too recently, far too often, the murder of black bodies, black souls. I'm seeing it today. I saw it in Santa Monica, LA. I see it in Des Moines, Iowa, Salt Lake City. My fellow Americans, and particularly the younger generation, are out there in the streets, joining hands with their black and brown brothers and sisters, or sometimes alone when there's no black and brown people around them. So that's very heartwarming to me. Something that I haven't seen since I was a young kid. The greatest songs, the greatest protest songs, the greatest art has always come out at times like this. You know, you do your thing when shit's f***ed up.
So as with anything in the modern day, one can expect some level of appropriation and commodification, in particular from our corporations today. There's something called modern day woke capitalism or performative activism, and it's an attempt to advocate for social justice from a corporate standpoint. The premise is, at least in my mind, is that there's no such thing as an idea or a cause that doesn't contain some monetary component. And the rationale behind it is that, one, they want to prove their alleged wokeness in alignment with issues that have captured a large segment of the public's imagination. And two, they seek to profit from a popularized social justice message through branding and marketing. So we got a couple of examples of this. One is the Coca-Cola ad from 1971, and it's telling me now that for some reason it's not available. It's anybody in the room remember that commercial?
I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Whoa!
Buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the side I see.
Beautiful, thank you, thank you. That's the ad. So the ad depicted a number of people on a hillside in Italy. It cost about $250,000 to make. By the following summer, 1.25 million more teenagers had tried Coke. That was like an 11% raise in their profit margin. But some of the things that they didn't tell you as they went through their singing on that hillside is that Coke had been charged with several unfair labor practices, including unilateral negotiations in terms of contracts with their workers, that there was widespread workplace discrimination from advancement to even who gets a job at Coke, that Coke had depleted water resources all over the world in terms of trying to get its product out there, and then there were several other environmental faux pas that they were accused of and had been convicted of to a very large degree. Probably a more egregious ad was the ad termed the Crying Indian. Anybody remember that? This ad was in many respects pretty pathetic. Why don't we take a look at this? Tobin, can you help me here?
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. and some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
So this ad was put out by the Keep America Beautiful Committee. Its viewership was in the billions. I think that it only lagged behind the Coke ad that we had just took a look at just earlier here. The actor portraying the Native American person in the film, in the commercial, was named Iron Eyes Cody. Can anybody tell me what did they feel in terms of what did you see from that commercial? How was the Native American person portrayed?
It's a caricature.
What do you mean, Dad?
As a caricature, I think there were a lot of stereotypical aspects to the way this person was dressed, the way they were getting around, the way their hair was done, that are, if I were to hazard a guess, probably a conglomeration of a bunch of things that don't actually go together, but represent a comical depiction of a culture in many cultures.
Perhaps an idea of what people thought when they thought of Native Americans. Thank you. What other point there? And I'll just tell you, agency. What agency did that person have? None. He didn't talk. You really didn't know, except through the tear, if he supported what was being said by the voiceover actor that was there. So zero agency in terms of this individual's ability to express what it is that he was actually feeling. And that was with intent. Those things, most commercials out there, guys, are with intent. There's no sense of not wanting you to believe something that they're pushing there. So, again, his name was Iron Eyes Cody, but come to find out his real name was Espera Oscar de Corti, and he was of Sicilian descent. Hollywood at the time had a penchant for using dark-skinned actors to portray Native Americans. Sometimes they went as far as to put dark-skinned makeup on people like Kirk Douglas and Steve McQueen in order to play Native American characters. What's even more crazy about this is that the Keep America Beautiful Committee was a front group for the likes of Anheuser-Busch and Coca-Cola, the beer bottlers and soft drink producers. And you ask, why would they put together an ad like this? Well, money. There was a bill before Congress that basically said, it was in the legislature at the time, that said that we're going to charge you for refunding for bottles and cans and things like that. And they decided, well, the hell with that. We'll put together something that puts the onus of that on the shoulders of the people that are buying our product, even though we are the ones that are manufacturing those things that wind up on the ground. Recently, the Keep America Beauty Committee, after some debate, has transferred the ownership of that ad to a Native American group, and their plans are to keep it retired and only to use it in terms of instructional purposes. So the resurgence of woke and reapplication has become sort of a wallet rallying cry surrounding, as most of you have noted, by the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, countless others, and the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement. I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through this burning building thing. You can talk to me about that a little bit later. It's about an explication of what the Black Lives Matter movement actually is. But in modern day music, you're going to find it within the likes of Erykah Badu and Master Teacher. You're going to find it in Childish Gambino and Redbone, where, again, we look at the evolution of the term, where Erykah talks about it in terms of health and relationship, and Childish Gambino talks about it as an alert to infidelity here. And so the question is what does modern day wokeness seek? We're a little bit premature here, but we're going to talk about this real quick. It's an increase in the awareness of events and occurrences which impact African American lives, change in social expectations, and by that I mean reactions and beliefs, by broadening the net of knowledge, a paradigmatic shift. We live within a particular paradigm. If you look at that in terms of a circle, any new paradigm that's emerging, in order for it to eclipse the old paradigm, has to have greater utility. It has to explain away things that the old paradigm really can't explain. So the paradigmatic shift is what wokeness seeks. And then the tether of social awareness to action in its verb form, and I think somebody over there at that table had said that earlier, and that's correct. And put forth the belief that knowledge of history combined with action equals power. I think that's when Tobin will talk a little bit about this, well, probably quite a bit about it, how the push for this is this change in what wokeness means is a power play to a very large degree. And there's a quote that I love. It's by Chinua Achebe, and he says, "Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." So whomever's telling that story is going to be glorified by it. A recap real quick. We've seen wokeness evolve from an admonishment in enslaved times and as a safety concern to a modern-day cry for basically under the umbrella of social justice. We've seen it evidence itself in historical political context, engaging such folk as Abraham Lincoln and Marcus Garvey. We witnessed it in the employment arena, the historic and modern-day music scene, and literature, and cinema, and social justice milieu. And we've even seen woke rear its ugly head in corporate America. So, end of that, Tobin's going to talk a little bit about demystifying woke relative to the anti-wokeness movement.
Thanks, Murray. Well, I'm going to enter the conversation that Murray has opened up for us with a story. So it comes to us from Haney'sville, Alabama in 1965, when a group of SNCC activists, this is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, had been arrested for trying to register folks. They were jailed. Been in jail for a couple days. They'd been transferred from where they had been to a place they didn't know. Finally, they're released. They're trying to find a way to contact other SNCC members to come and get them. And while they're doing that, people had not been fed well. They'd not been given adequate hydration while they were in jail for a couple days. So 4 members of the SNCC group said, well, there's a store. It's called the Varner Cash Store across the way. Let's go get some Cokes. So 4 folks, 2 white men, 2 African-American women. The 2 I'm going to focus on are Jonathan Daniels, who's an Episcopalian seminarian, and Ruby Sales, a relatively young, she was only 17 at the time, African-American woman, all of them activists with SNCC, and they went over to the store. But as they're approaching the store, they see a man on the porch of the store, his name is Thomas Coleman, standing there with a shotgun. And he says, "You can't come in." And before they can barely react, he picks up the gun, aims it at Ruby Sales, the young African-American woman, and pulls the trigger. In that split second, the young white seminarian, Jonathan Daniels, leaps in front of her, takes the shotgun blast, and is killed. In the aftermath of this event, Coleman, he actually walked inside the store, called the police, and said, "Come, I've just shot someone." He was brought to trial, but the all-white jury acquitted him completely. Lived out his days working for the state in a construction job, was never held accountable for his murder. Ruby Sales was rendered mute for about a year after this event, given the trauma of what had happened. But she goes on in later life to be an important leader, counselor, often behind-the-scenes individual. She founds Spirit House in Washington, D.C., that was educating, and did so in honor of Jonathan Daniels. She's known for asking people who are acting in ways that were not their best selves by saying to them, "Where does it hurt?" She knew how to get to the heart of the matter. I start with this story because I think it tells us a story of 2 woke individuals, Jonathan Daniels and Ruby Sales. Now, it's a complex story because We remember both of them. Ruby Sales is still with us. I've had the privilege of meeting her a couple times. She's an amazing woman, continues to be so. And her life is with us because of what Jonathan Daniels had done. And he's considered a martyr of the civil rights movement, along with many others. Jonathan Daniels was woke. He knew what he had to do in that minute, not because he had just sort of shown up on the scene and happened to be there. It had been a journey for him. He'd made mistakes, but he'd learned along the way, and he'd listened very carefully to the African-American leaders around him and responded in that context. And Ruby Sales went on to live her life also in that tradition. Now, the way that story connects to the anti-wokeness movement is that I think the first thing we have to be clear about is that any negative association with the term woke in our contemporary society today is a deliberate political strategy to try to undermine the gains that have been made, particularly through the Black Lives Matter movement. Direct one-to-one correlation. It's an attempt to take that away, that somehow to undermine the image of people who have listened carefully to those around them and try to do things differently and be proactive about it. I think the main thing I want to add at this moment to all the wonderful information Murray's put into the room is that I think our contemporary task is not only to know the history of where that term has come from, to understand that there is a tradition of white folks, of African American folks, working in collaboration together, both claiming that woke identity. I think it's very interesting that the term hip, which as Murray pointed to us, was sort of the predecessor to woke, comes from the Wolof language in Senegal. That means someone who is aware, who is awake, and that we can trace that etymology. And again, that term was tried to be compromised. I think there are some basic principles that can guide our action to that process of reclaiming the term woke. It's been stolen away. I think there are very simple principles that can guide that action that looks different from those of us who have a white identity to those of us who are people of color. There are different roles we have to play within the midst of that. I'll speak just for a moment out of my own story and that of my white colleagues that I work with very closely too, who are engaged in anti-racist struggles. And just 4 quick things about that has been central to our reclaiming of that woke role. First of all is that I think we all need to be clear about our racial identities without getting caught up in any sort of guilt or a discomfort about them, about those identities. To be clear means we're opening the way to action. That's sort of the first principle, to know who we are. I think the other important principle is that we need to accept our own responsibilities for our education, particularly for those of us who are white. It's not something we need to ask our colleagues and friends of color to do for us. We need to be proactive about claiming that and our responsibility for doing that ourselves. I think the other 2 things I'll note here, one is to recognize that whether it's the very dramatic story of martyrdom that comes to us through Jonathan Daniels, or more quotidian, everyday things, that there's always going to be costs with claiming a woke identity where we are pushing back against the forces of white supremacy that exist around us on a daily basis. There are going to be tangible, real costs that we have to be aware of and not be surprised by as we move forward. And then I think I'll just name a principle that has been part of my own experience. I do a lot of work with an African-American woman, Dr. Regina Shan-Stoltzfus. We've collaborated together for 30 years. We just recently co-authored a book. And in that book, where we talk about the work that we've engaged in dismantling racism across the country, we lift up the principle of veto power. We were just speaking in Pennsylvania 2 weeks ago, and someone was noting our collaborative work, and it seemed like we had a really strong partnership. And I said, well, yeah, it's true, but part of the principle that we've embodied for those 30 years is that whenever we do come to a point of impasse in our working relationship, Regina gets veto power. And that's been a consistent, sustaining, grounding principle for us. It's happened maybe 3 times in those 30 years, But that knowledge has been a way for us to have integrity given our respective racial and gender identities. Many other things we could talk about there, but I think I will stop there just in hope that we can have a conversation. And anything else you want to add here, Murray?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Tobin, particularly for the part about education. And we'll maybe come to, as we conclude, talk about that a little bit more. So, questions? Thanks, Devin.
Well, when I was looking at the Native American ad, that was the first time I had seen it. So, and the first thing that came to mind after, it was done was, oh, there must not have been anyone in the room when this was being created or being thought of or being put into a project. And so my question would be, representation is important, especially in rooms where decisions are made. What would you say to people who are in rooms, who they are the anomaly in their rooms, where these specific decisions are being made about maybe something involving their culture? How would you encourage them to speak up or even to walk into these rooms confidently?
If you're in that room, my sense of it is that you need to speak up. People may not agree with you at all, but for your own sense of integrity, you need to speak up. It's critically important, in particular in Montana, in that I've had the privilege, and I'll use that word as it's intended, to be in a lot of those rooms with folks. And sometimes I say things that piss people off. Sometimes I say things that people truly don't understand, and I'm all up for allowing them to listen to me and as I go through an explanation of what they mean. But at the end of the day, I think that we all have that responsibility, in particular people of color in those rooms, because we're going to find ourselves outgunned to some degree in many instances. We're going to find ourselves in conflict sometimes with people who really don't have a true understanding of where we're coming from as a human being in the first place, let alone as where we're coming from in terms of trying to advance a cause. So it's critical for your own integrity, for your own mental health, to be able to continue that conversation, to be able to bring those things up, irrespective of how some other people might feel in that room. That's what's important from my standpoint.
I'm going to answer your question by referencing a group that my colleagues and I have worked with for about 3 years now. They've been pretty public about it, so I can name them. Vanderbilt University Medical Center, 40,000 employees, about 4 years ago made the deliberate decision that they were not just going to do multicultural celebration, they were actually going to do anti-racism. And so they reached out to my colleagues and I, and we've been consulting with them. The thing I note about their success is that the African-American woman who's heading their project, when she was invited by the white president to come in, the CEO, and he said, I want to do this work. And she did two things that made all the difference. One is that out of the gate, she set the terms of the engagement. And she says to her boss in that moment, and this is not always going to be an option, but for her, this was brilliant because she said, okay, I'll do it on two conditions. One is that you're going to have to actually say the words anti-racism and white privilege and white supremacy and be comfortable with doing so. And secondly, you're going to have to give me the adequate resources to actually not just play at this, but to make a difference at this. And she was proactive, she figured out who her allies were, she set her own terms, and was willing to walk away. And again, I can't speak to that, given I'm not in her position, but that made all the difference from that point forward. The proactivity, out of the gate, setting the terms.
One other thing real quick I'd suggest is that you confer with people who look like you who are in like circumstances. There are other people around that are in those circumstances that may be within the same employment milieu as you. make sure you talk to them as well too, because chances are they're experiencing some of that stuff too, and they may have a different perspective on it, something that you may be able to utilize as well.
Thank you.
I thought you weren't going to ask any questions.
Him and I go way back, so I don't pay attention to him. I just wanted to, this is just looking from a historical perspective of people that were activists over the years, over the history and over the years. I think one of the things that we sometimes struggle with is the thought process that, oh, something is going to happen to me. I believe, and I can't say this for true, this is just my opinion, that most of those folks from Martin Luther King to, we can name 20 of them, I don't think that their first thought was, what's going to happen to me? Or what emotional reaction is someone going to have? They just told the truth. They put things out there because that's what they were working on. And I think today sometimes we are afraid of what John is going to say to me. I don't want to quote Nike, but we just got to do it. Right? We just gotta say those things. There's a lot of courage that comes into play for you to say to a coworker or to a boss or to someone that, look, this is what we need to do. And I do believe, from my perspective, that the people in the history of this work that we're doing didn't necessarily think that, oh, I'm worried about what this person is going to think about me. This is where we're going.
Thank you.
I have a question, but I want to say a couple of things about Murray Pierce. Also, I want to say that I think most of us really want to hear your voice and want to hear your perspective. And so I just am thankful for your vulnerability to speak out whenever you have a chance. Murray has been here at the University of Montana for 50 years this fall. And I met Murray in the early 1980s playing pickup basketball over there in the fitness center. Murray was an imposing person, and you always wanted to have Murray on your team, or you wanted to be on Murray's team for obvious reasons. But Murray's been doing this work for a long time, and I just want to express my gratitude to you. I know we've had some contact over the years, and you taught me in about 10 seconds about the racist origins and orientation of the national anthem. I don't know if you remember doing that, but it just lit a light bulb in my head, and I'm grateful to you for that. And I am grateful for all the work that you've done over the years in enlightening and helping all of us to broaden and expand our perspective. And just like in the mid-1980s, I still want to be on your team. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
I guess I just wanted to kind of speak to like what everyone was saying about like taking risks in speaking out, and I mean that kind of reminded me of like Huey P. Newton from the Black Panthers and how he would speak about like, you know, like the being in the revolution, like not scared of death and like martyrdom and just like wanting to make the biggest impact that you can, and kind of like that radical perspective I think is really important, especially for like all of like the like white like allies, non-black allies, just like anyone who wants to actually like have an impact and be like helpful, assuming that risk and not being scared, because I mean, like, for the black people in every room who are the minority, for the minority in whatever room who needs to speak up, that risk is there no matter what, whether you decide to speak up or not. So kind of like, I think in that story you were sharing, Tobin, about the what was his name?
Jonathan Daniels and Ruby Sales.
Yes, that is like, I mean, that's like a very extreme case, like death, obviously, but like it is that idea of like taking your safety and compromising that to where like other people are forced to not have that safety, that privilege. So it is sort of like that idea of vulnerability as a choice is one of the best things that like someone can do as an ally, I feel. And also like for like the minority specifically, for like the black people in these situations, resilience and like finding community outside of those spaces where you are the minority. So like, I don't know, like places like this, like how the Black Student Union is a thing, and like, I don't know, I do work with like Empower Montana's Association for BIPOC Youth, and so like spaces like that where you connect to other people who are in these situations, like you were saying, it's like, it's very important just to have both like resilience and also take risks and have like a strong community, because that gives you the strength to be able to take these risks. Yeah.
Just want to quick build on Paul's comment and our sister's comment right now. Tell me your name.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You mentioned her mention of community. I often get uncomfortable in contemporary discussions about issues of how we go about responding to issues of racism, white supremacy, etc., because invariably they are framed as individual choices of moral courage. What we know from the long Black freedom struggle, in all its iterations, it was never just about individual choices of moral courage. It was always about very thoughtful, usually highly debated strategies put in place over long periods of time. It was never just an individual's choice. So even that story I started out with, it was in the context of a decision that had been made to enter in Alabama, to the county, Bloody Lowndes County, that had a horrible history of killing people who tried to vote from the Black community. And they made a decision to go there after debating for months about what would be the most important place to go. Same thing we could say about Freedom Summer of '64, we could just go on and on. But my encouragement is that we always need to be placing our actions and impulses in a organizing context that comes out of community and collectivity, not just individual acts of moral courage. Always essential. But everything we know about the gains that have been made in this country around racial justice, it's always been long-term strategies organized by people with highly contentious debates to figure out where we're going to go next.
I wanted to expand on the education bit. When I was speaking earlier today, I said that we don't have the time, patience, nor the energy to educate everybody we meet on why something is wrong to say, or why it's racist, or why it's a microaggression. I feel like a lot of people say that, oh yeah, I'll be able to like research it later, go do this, go do that. But me included, I feel like I put it off for so long that I just keep on forgetting about it. And one thing that we really have to do is learn how to educate ourselves by taking that time away, that we can go like look on Google, because it's a free education tool that a lot of people have access to. So we have to learn how to educate ourselves. And while some stuff like this happen, and as you can see, there are people here coming and learning, we also have to learn how to teach ourselves about stuff like this.
That's beautiful. I think we're running up on time, and that's a great segue into, well, actually, let me back up for a second. I just want you to see this for a second, okay? This is our buddy Tim Scott. People have opinions. Black people's opinions don't fall under a monolith to any degree, and you have people like this gentleman who's made some statements. This very last part here, Abby, I want you guys to pay particular attention. I'm just going to read it to you. We're up on time again, too. And it's about education, and it says that perhaps the most important lesson lies in continuing to educate ourselves, all the while understanding that the less regard you have for educating yourself, the less demonstrable capacity you have to think for yourself. And the less ability you have to think for yourself, the greater the likelihood you will be manipulated and swayed by those who desire to think for you. That's our presentation, guys. Thank you.
All right, so we are in our session for our second breakout room session, but beforehand I wanted to share the results for our Black History trivia that we did a little bit before lunch. So, coming in first place with 19 out of 30 correct is Lizzie, Sylvie, Abby, and Henry's team. Now you guys get to figure out which item you guys want. All right. Maybe I should have done third to first place. That probably makes more sense now. Sorry. Coming in second place with 18 points, really close out of 30, is the center table with 4 people, Kiera, Olivia, Colburn, and Paul. If you guys want to grab this guy, see how you guys are going to split it. All right. And coming in third place with 17 points out of 30, we have Tobin Shearer. Would you like to grab your... All right, the next person. Hey, Sylvie, do you mind grabbing those papers over there? They have all the scores on them. Don't worry, I won't share your scores with anybody. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Let's see. Okay, coming in third place with 11 out of 30, we have Devin. All right.
Tobin, you're taking part of this.
Alrighty, so that was it for our Black History trivia. If you guys are curious about what the answers were for certain questions, feel free to grab me. Oh, do you have a question? I see.
Uncle Phil, what was his name?
That was, nobody actually got it right, actually. So, James Avery. Yeah, Uncle Phil from Prince of Bel-Air. That was so funny. I think someone had said Tyler Perry, and that just made me giggle. But now we're moving on to our breakout session.
So, hi guys, thank you. I want to introduce Alejandro. Minor Alejandro Veliz, networker, broker, spreadsheets guru, and finder of best prices on anything, anywhere. I have to take you up on that.
Yeah.
Minor, aka Alejandro, brings more than a decade of progressive experience in financial stewardship, accounting leadership, and operations management in the health and medical service sector. He has been consistently recognized not only for his financial acumen, but also for his ability to apply a collaborative, modern leadership style to get employees fired up about their mission and working together in new and collaborative ways. Originally from Guatemala, Minor holds a bachelor's degree in business finance, a master's in business administration, and he is a graduate of the Harvard Business School Leadership Development Program. An avid long-distance runner and world traveler, Minor lives in Missoula with his wife, his daughter, and his son. And I might say I met Alejandro about 1.5 years or so ago. Is that right?
More?
More?
Yeah, like 3 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Through a joint University Missoula business collaborative that we were developing at the time. And we've become close, we've become friends since then, and I'm very proud to name him as one of my friends. So,
Thank you.
Alejandro.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. So again, my name is Alejandro. I'm the CFO for a private foundation here in town named Headwaters. I don't know if you have heard of Headwaters, but it's a brand new foundation. I would say we start giving grants away or funding in 2017. So we haven't been in the market for that long. We just finished our first 5-year strategic plan, and this year we're starting our next strategic plan, and it's going to be 10 years. So I'd like to share with you about Headwaters, but obviously you can Google it and find out about it, and if you have any questions or if you want to learn more, feel free to reach out. One of the things that Murray asked me to speak to you guys today was about crowdsourcing and fundraising for students. But I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to go at it, and I want to make some changes on the fly. One is I can just go through the whole process about like, what is crowdsourcing, what is a successful crowdsourcing campaign, which I can go through that too. Or I can just tell you what are my ideas for you if you really want to gather money in Missoula. I can give you 20 ideas how to do that today, and then actionable things, and then I will tell you how to be successful. So you tell me which one you want, the first or the second.
I'm leaning towards the second.
Okay. No, that's what I'm trying to do. But yeah, that's exactly. Okay, so I will go with that. So I have worked for many nonprofits, and my background is Fortune 500. But coming to the nonprofit really gives you this idea of this scarcity of resources, and also this homogeneous way of fundraising. It's like the same thing, same thing. And I feel like the future, especially with young generation like you guys, is that finding a different way to go at this. And I'm really excited to have this conversation because I don't do any fundraising anymore, which is great, but I'm always thinking about how does it feel on the other side, and how can I be a ally and a supporter of this side, even if, well, I also contribute financially, but even if that's not a big deal, that's a big component. I think that the biggest component of this is how give you the tricks of the trade, I would say. And we are, I feel in Missoula, we are in a place where people are really interested in, a lot of people are really interested in learning, and people are a lot interested in the students, and especially if it's related to BIPOC, or women's rights, or gay rights. So it's going to be a good place to apply some of the things that I will have for you today. So I will tell you the first thing is network, right? Network, but you can't do it alone because you don't know, who are the people, the rich people in town. So, and that's what you want. You want access to those rich people in town who are really interested in doing the stuff that you're doing. So the first thing that I tell you is like, I will be your resource going forward. So you will have my email, and you connect with me, and then you tell me what kind of event you want to put together, and I will tell you who is your partner for that. So I know a few ladies, I know a few guys here who have big, beautiful houses, who are always interested in hosting something that has a meaningful thing for them. So then the best thing to do in that case is being able to reach out to them and be like, hey, as a students, we're trying to raise money for this. Is any way would you be interested in partnering with us? What do I need with you? If you can help us host it in your house, if you can help us with some basic food or drinks, or that will be amazing, and we can just put together, come here and have volunteers to help serve the food, clean up, set up, and everything. And then whatever we raise, then we take it to our group or to our students. I'm telling you, I can think 3 or 4 people that they will open, including my wife. My wife will open our house, and she loves parties. She always is looking for an excuse to throw a party. So that's one. The second is that currently our foundation just opened a community space in Headwaters building that is in downtown. The first floor, the whole first floor is a state-of-the-art meeting space or event space. So then, by knowing me now, you guys can reach out and be like, we want to have an event. This is kind of like the mission of the event, even though you're not a nonprofit, but the thing that you're working is related to the things that we care about, right? So then it will be easy for me to justify to let you use the space. Not only that, but one of the things that sometimes is restricted here, and I understand probably the financial reasons why, but you're restricted with the kind of food that you can provide here, right? In my place, you're not. You can serve any food that you want. And not only that, we have a commercial kitchen. So imagine the idea that you partner somebody like Murray, who's an amazing cook, he's an amazing chef, or even somebody that he might know, and you might want to do a specific type of event where you want to serve a specific type of food. So not only you don't have to look for a commercial kitchen and in a space, so you can have everything. And it's not only that, but it's in downtown, right? So it's really attractive to a lot of people to be like that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
So one of the issues that we have on campus here, and it's been a long-going issue here, particularly for student groups, is that in order well, you can't bring in outside food.
Yeah.
If there was another, let's say that we wanted to do something ethnic or whatever, we wanted to have somebody cater to bring it in, that's not allowable. So a space like yours is really something that I think that would be beneficial to students in general, in particular to the students that are sitting around this table that we're talking about being able to do things from a bylaw standpoint.
Absolutely, I agree. The other thing too that I want you to keep in mind, and I don't have any specific idea for as a group, but I want you to know about this, because then you never know when do you deploy the resource I'm going to share with you, or when you're in the same position that I am and you replicate a similar model. So one of the things that I'm interested, because I don't do grant making. I manage the money and I manage all the operations of the organization. But one of the things that I have challenged my team is to think about how can we still do it, how can we still fulfill the mission with the things that we do in operations. And they were like, what do you mean? And I say, who do we hire to clean who's cleaning our offices? A company. Why? Why is that a family? And why is that a family of color doing that? And why we don't pay double than what we pay to the company? He's like, can we do that? I said, yeah. Right? So now we have actually through an event that we created last year, that was the altar for the Dia de los Muertos. The family that helped me create the altar, I found out that they were cleaning a theater rental, and they were getting paid $15 an hour, and they're in charge of the taxes. So in reality, they were paying them like $9 an hour, and they have to get up Monday to Monday at 3 o'clock in the morning until 8 in the morning. That was their time for them to get it clean without 1 day of rest. So they were able to leave that job, and now we are training them, not training them, but providing the opportunity for them to learn how to clean commercial. We're providing all the equipment, providing all the eco-friendly products for them to be like, okay, how do I get used to this? Then after that, the mom has 2 sons, and then I say, can your son do the snow removal and shoveling? And they were like, can they? And I was like, yeah. So then now, guess what? Now, like, her kid is the one that does. So we fired the company that we had that it was doing the snow removal. And now this family is doing the cleaning and the snow removal, and teaching them, because I'm telling them, I want you guys to start your business. You start with us, you can make mistakes with us, but you're learning what is the expectation of a business, how the thing should be clean. You're learning how, from the business perspective, what I'm expecting for you to do to remove the snow, how like you apply de-icer, and all those kind of things. That way, whenever we find you, or whenever you find another company, another client, you know exactly what the expectations are. I'm saying this because I want you also to challenge us to be like, is there something that we're doing that we should be looking for students, or we should be looking for groups like or the groups that you are, for us to partner and look into something. One of the things right now, I hired 2 consultants to help me with Fruits Friday, because we open for Fruits Friday, because we want to be also a community space where people come. Well, we're paying decent money to those individuals, and their job is to find artists and to be able to be there, like make sure the artists show up on time, that they're hanging the paintings and everything like that. So then the thing is like, why is not next, as a basic, why is not next February, the whole exposition for January, February run by one group that's here in the university, and then it's all about some kind of art related to BIPOC community, right? Like, I don't know, like I'm telling you, I can tell the consultants to be like, not getting paid for January, February, or we can pay you, but we want to showcase these artists based on the stuff. What is great about the showcasing art in our space. I didn't know this, so I learned this through this process. Is that apparently, when you're an artist and you are showcasing your art in any business, if you sell the piece, you have to pay a commission, and that was news to me. So when I was putting this together, the artist wanted to know what was the percentage that we were going to take, and I was like, percentage of what? He's like, of our paintings that we sell our paintings. Like, I don't need your money, and I don't want your money. It's like, you take whatever you sell it for. It's like, are you sure? It's like, they're so like Newport, they was like, we can give like 10%. It's like, no. Like, if you sell it, you keep all the money. So then every artist that's showcasing our space, it is 100% of those funds go to there. But just think about this for a second, and I'm going into a little sideway here, but I want you to think, because if you don't know, you can't do better. And if I don't share it, then I can't do better either. So the two individuals helping me to put together, this is two white ladies. So who do you think the artists that they know? Huh?
Other white ladies.
Exactly. Right? So then, and it's not that they don't want to, but it's like they're not going to come to one of you guys and like, are you an artist? Like you will be like, what the hell is, like, why do you need to know if I'm an artist, right? But if I know through this conversation to be like, hey, you know what? We can put together like a show with our friends. I know different artists in the university. Then I can tell them, like, going forward this month or whatever, in November, whatever month we pick, it's like, I want you to showcase these artists, people of color, as the one that's going to showcase those things, right? So then we can be a resource as a foundation and as a place to be able to showcase art of people of color or women. Like all those individuals that you regularly don't get spaces in the nice places. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, back to fundraising is like at a space. Like space can be, it's a prime location, it's a prime space to be able to have fundraising events. Not only that, but then in the back of our building, I'm creating, my dream is to create the first activated alley in Missoula. You know how you go to different cities and you go to the alleys, and the alleys there's like music, there's like restaurants, and everything is spilled out through the alley. Why don't we have that here in Missoula? Like, at least in the summer, as a minimum. Like, I don't want to be inside a restaurant, I want to be outside, so nice, right? So my idea is that, and I started already, we were able to put some lights in one section. Our alley is where the Rhino is. If you heard been in downtown, the Rhino behind Top Hat, that's our alley. So right now I'm in a mission, that alley stays clean. Because also there is a study that says that you have 85% more probability if you have a little piece of garbage in that area, that other people are going to start dumping more garbage there. When people see it clean, people don't dump anything. So I always remember that study, and I always make sure that every day when I drive, I see garbage, I pick it up, and then again, the Mexican family is helping me to make sure that stays clean. But coming back to the back of our, and this is my dream for this coming summer. So you can be the first group to help me with this. So behind the building, the whole parking lot, I painted the trash cans. I painted a mural behind the building, and I just put lights in the back of the thing. I put a special power in the back to make sure that we can have bands playing and having events outside. So if you guys want to do fundraising, do the first event there during the summer, let's get together, let's do something like that where we might be able to sponsor the musician if you know what music you want to bring. And again, I just told you we have a kitchen there. So if you want to do outdoors or you want to sell something, or you partner with other vendors that be like, we want to sell this, but you guys are doing some kind of fundraise. What else? It feels to me that there is also, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, so forgive me if you guys already have tried this and it didn't work, but it feels to me that there is a big missed opportunity with a lot of fraternities and sororities in town. First, like the majority of the people there are white, right? So they will benefit a lot to have some people of color there. But I also know that they mean well. I know at least one fraternity that is neighbors to a house that we bought for my mother-in-law, and those kids are really sweet, and I know they want to learn, they want to do well and everything, and they will benefit to do an event related to something about BIPOC community. And you really have free labor with them, just put them to work. Like this, you can just go to them and be like, hey guys, we're interested in putting this together, and then we thought it will be a great partnership for you guys, for your name and your fraternity to be helping us. And they're interested. And I said that because last year during the building the Dia de los Muertos celebration, Day of the Dead celebration, I told them, I say, I need some people to help me hang some stuff, and I think it's be good for you, for your fraternity to learn some about different cultures. And they love it. They, like 10 kids show up and they learn so much, and the Mexican family loved them because they were hard workers like them, and they were so excited that some of them were practicing their Spanish. So I know they're eager, but they don't know how, right? There's young kids, they don't know how. So I'll stop there with some ideas. All right. Is there any questions on it? You have anything?
Well, I look at, at the BSU, one of the things that we've had trouble doing is just that, it's just fundraising.
Yeah.
It's just trying to find sources for alternative monies. I know, like you said, it's in Missoula, there's a whole lot of who you know here. A lot of that depends on that. I'm lucky enough to have known some people here and continue to know some people. We had a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, a family that was donating $500 a month to BSU.
Yeah.
That went into our coffers and do those things. Well, those things are few and far in
Yeah.
between. But in terms of students just going out and raising money for BSU, I mean, we were told at one point, at least a year and a half ago or so, that, oh, why don't you guys do a bake sale? I mean, which was nice.
Yeah.
But a bake sale may bring in, what, $100?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. You've got all this work and all this effort going on and stuff, and you've got a minimal return on what your effort is.
Yeah.
So I think that as an organization, I would suspect that most organizations on campus are looking for ways to increase that bottom line in terms of what can we do relative to fundraising. And I think if you presented some fairly decent ideas, particularly when you have a space too. So I would like to see us take advantage of that in the future.
I also think that, I don't know, I would like, I haven't seen any slide with any sponsors for this summit. So that to me is a last opportunity. Next year we need to connect, and I will connect you with at least 5 businesses who each of them that will give you $500. Wow. Does it pay for something? Absolutely. Like Clearwater Credit Union. The CEO is my friend, nice guy. And I know he's interested in diversity. He's interested in learning. He's a really good guy. So right away there. My other friend owns Gecko Designs, and a small little mom and pop website design here in town. Like Jewish family, they know the pains of being different. They know the pains of having a small community in a place like Montana. They always support the community. I'm pretty sure I call Melissa and like $200 to have their logo here, and for people to know that Gecko Design is supporting this kind of event. They will be excited to those things. So I can go the list of that kind of stuff. With us, with our foundation, we can, but this is where you play the loopholes. I can't give you money because you're not aligned with what we're doing in the previous. And the coming strategy is going to be more opportunity for that. But I don't work in develop. I don't work in programs, so I can't offer you that. But what I'm telling you here, kind of between the lines and openly to you, is that you can come to me as, I understand you can give me money, but can you sponsor the drinks? Can you sponsor the food? And I might say, not outside my building, but if you come to my building, what do you want? Right? Because I just buy it, and like part of our mission is that I tell my team is like, I want to make sure that every nonprofit that comes here to our space, that they have the minimum basic things you offer to their guests. Because you're a poor student organization or because you're a poor nonprofit, you shouldn't be not having drinks or not having cookies or not having a snack for your guests. That's not cool. What is going to cost us? $200, $200? Is it relevant for somebody to feel welcome to one of those events?
Is it possible, I don't know if this is possible or not, could BSU be a nonprofit?
You don't need to. That's what I'm going to go next, but go ahead.
That was just my question.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's a good question that I don't actually know the answer to.
So now I'm going to go to the loophole with that. So when you have a group like you guys have, that is not a nonprofit, but I want you to do formal fundraising, and you want to be in line with IRS, and you don't want to get in trouble with anything, what you do is what you usually do is you find a fiscal sponsor. And a fiscal sponsor is this legal entity that IRS is another nonprofit that becomes the legal entity representing that group. And they're the one picking up the money. You know who's your friend? The Missoula Community Foundation. I know the CEO, we can talk to her about it. Would she take her cut? Absolutely. Should she take her cut? Absolutely, she should take her cut, right? She's doing all the work and everything. But now you have not only representation, if you need a nonprofit, if somebody says, we only donate to a nonprofit, you say, I have a fiscal sponsor. They can donate through them. And any document that your donor needs in order to write off those taxes, they can give it to them.
And I think some good examples of that on campus are the way that the religious groups work. That almost, if we think about like the Grizzly Christian Fellowship, they're all escaping me right now. There's like 30 of them. Wow. But they are related to a church in town.
Exactly.
And they have a student organization. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, not a church, an outdoor organization that's a business in town, but they have a group as well. And so I don't know, I think it's as far as like the way student groups operate and being a nonprofit, I don't know if that's the way, but they can be attached and funded by a nonprofit off campus, like the churches do. I think Missoula Pride is another great example. Yeah. I am the director of Missoula Pride. I take a cut of what is made at the end of the year, but it is all fiscal sponsored. It is all a fundraiser for the Western Montana Community Center. It all goes up to there. We're not our own nonprofit, but we operate kind of like an event. We have a separate budget, a separate bank account, all those kinds of things.
And the unique complexity, and I say that meaningfully, is that I think, but I could be wrong, if the students were to do fundraisers on campus, I think it rolls through your ASUM account, the foundation, those type of things.
Yeah.
But fiscal sponsorship, if someone else is to hold that, it does not have to reside within the foundation. And then it's a mutually beneficial event that you're co-sponsoring. And that takes nothing away from BSU.
Yeah.
It just says you are literally, BSU is the forward face, and here are your corporate sponsors. But it is a unique legal, I don't want to say legal, but it does provide prowess in collaborative spaces.
Yep. And there is precedent for it. I'm not sure where the money that the donor, as you were talking about.
That's where we ran into the problem, because we were getting money from the individual, from
Yeah,
the family.
exactly.
And so we were told it had to go through
Foundation.
The foundation.
Which is
the foundation. And so I'm saying that, hey, these people want to see this go straight to students and a lot of this other stuff. Exactly. And they're saying, nope, you can't do that.
That is true if you go through the university.
Well, they told us that they didn't tell us that there was another option.
Of course.
Because it's fiscally, I mean, it's beneficial for them.
Yeah.
Because they take foundation runs solely as the proprietary of money for all of our campus. Like, doesn't matter if you're an academic unit, a student group, all those things.
Okay.
So they are speaking the truth for them, but that is where many organizations on campus have a mutually beneficial relationship with fiscal sponsors. For example, Rainbow Welcome is underwritten by Clearwater. It never comes to me as $1. They pay for the food. They pay for the UCAL, so the folks that do the music, they don't give us money. Because then, I'm hands off, they just pay the bill.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's interesting.
Also, if you want to work with fraternities and sororities, uniquely, one of the hats that I wear is I oversee all Greek life.
Yep. And I oversee a 90-person service organization that would love to help out.
Right? Exactly.
I think I want to underscore what you've said about asking the right people for money. I think I've only been in fundraising for 2.5 years, And the first thing I learned was that honestly, you just have to ask, and people are almost always going to give you something. And that can be scary and difficult, and I certainly don't love doing it. I hate having to ask people for money. It makes me so uncomfortable. But they're going to give you money. There's lots of people with a lot of capacity in this town. And being able to have a nice space, being able to go to someone's house. We did that with Mr. Schaffner, his partner, this year, and brought all the sort of blue-haired queer people in Missoula to a fancy Emmy winner's home, and we raised a lot of money in one evening just by having someone that could provide some fancy cocktails and some nice little food, and you could see the 20 Emmys sitting on the table in his living room. And I was like, I feel like I'm too close to those right now. And so that kind of access that you're providing, I think I just want to emphasize that please take him up on this, because it will help.
I would also dovetail to that, think about the strategic asks that you have in front of you, because I think there are a lot of people who want to give, and there is a pyramid, right? There are those at the top that have the access and ability to give you all the dollars in the world. Note that there's a lot of people in that middle stratosphere that may not be able to give you every check, but if you can say, we would like 20 hours of time, we'd love to have services because you own Topher's downtown and their second location, and she is gracious to give. I mean, like, it's not always money. So what are the other things that within the year you need? You need volunteers. You need people to show up, to give what they can, and that's not always money. So as you develop a strategic plan on what the give is, it develops the ask.
And I was learning this today, or remind me this today. I have done everything in my life because I'm from Guatemala. And so when I came to the United States, I was like, I can be whoever I want. And I discovered that, yes, you can be whoever you want if you work really hard and you learn the stuff. So I became a salesperson. Because in Guatemala, for some reason, being a car salesperson is really fancy. So when I moved to the United States, I wanted to be a car salesperson. That was my dream, don't tell anybody. And I discovered later how people think about car salespersons in the United States. But in Guatemala, it's fancy. And I got the job. I couldn't speak English at all, but I got the job. It was good because then they didn't know I was trying to sell them anything. And I became the top salesperson in the dealership for many months. But one of the things that TikTok reminded me a few days ago was that I got to this video where the guy's saying, as a salespeople, we don't ask questions, there's yes or no the answer. And he's like, what do? We ask open questions. And then he stopped. He's like, but we're so stupid. We're still asking the most important question in our lives is yes or no. And you say, well, we ask somebody to marry us. We're stupid. We're asking yes or no. We shouldn't be asking that. We should be asking. I'm coming to the story that is relevant to you. Promise. So we should be asking, would you like to get married here in the United States, or would you like a overseas wedding? Like, you never ask yes or it's like. So then coming back to what you're saying about don't only ask for money. You say, hey, I have an opportunity. It will be great to have you. You can either help us sponsor $200 in food, or if you give us $200 cash, we'll take anywhere. If you decide that drinks are better for you, happy to do that. Again, you're not giving a yes or no, can I have $200? It's like you're giving them a portfolio, pick one. You're not going away without picking one. You have 3 options, right? Like, people like to pick. But in the end, you're winning, right? You got $200, either in drinks or in food or money. Yeah.
Add something really nice for like our end of year party.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Yes. Let's do it in our place.
Yeah, I think the group would really like that. And also what you were saying about like artists, I feel like we have like connections to your brother because my brother. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've got a lot of connections. I mean, like you're a really good singer.
You already know us.
Yes, I know. We used your space on Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard we were there. And I was like,
yeah, exactly.
But and then imagine the other thing that you should be thinking about it is like, and this is my dream. This is what I really push our foundation. We were going to build what we call a catering kitchen and the incremental cost, it was not that big to go from catering kitchen. The pain in the butt regulations are not that much to go into commercial kitchen. And I said, let's go commercial kitchen because my dream is one day that we have what I call the World Fair of food, right? Where we close in front of the Rhino, the Alley, and all the different little cultures that we have here in Missoula can have.
There used to be on campus here.
One of the saddest things that doesn't happen anymore.
One of the most incredible things on campus. It was in the International Food Festival. It happened for years. It happened for years, and so, in fact, I work with this African Student Association, but our booth had the longest line of anybody that was here, and we had food from all over the world. We had ethnic dancing. We had demonstration of all sorts of things, and they closed it down
because of food production issues.
Right, sharing catered kitchens.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was students. It was a way to make money.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a way to engage with the community. People look forward to this every single
There is
year.
no better way to share your culture and your love through food. Period. Like a friend of mine said, listen. Like somebody was saying the other day, he's from Mexico, and he was saying something in the lines of like, I know, I was talking to another white friends, he's like, I know my food is better than your food. and they go like, what do you mean, right? These white friends are like, what do you mean? It's like, you guys have given a name to my food. We have Taco Tuesday. He's like, we don't have Cracker Barrel Wednesday. It's like it's how good their food is. Like you give it a day. So it's like, I know you like my food, so why don't you like me? Like, so it's really like so again, how do you get to know a culture? An individual, you might be afraid of person's colors, you might be afraid of person's accents, but the food allows you to connect.
Yeah. When I catered for years, and I always contended that you really don't know someone until you eat what sustains them.
Yeah.
This is what sustains a particular person, so you get to know them a little bit better. Yeah. We should talk about Missoula International Food Fair.
That'll be amazing.
We should talk.
That'll be amazing.
I miss that so much, man. It was an incredible cultural exchange. It brought out the entire community here.
You know who was in? Kevin. Kevin from the Rhino.
Well, he had approached me about this last year.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And we've just been swamped and haven't really gotten together.
The Mardi Gras is another one that he wants to do with you.
Yeah.
And then we can do a Mardi Gras using our kitchen and using our space.
Yeah. Soft Landing has kind of their whole network of families that are doing their food pickup and things like that.
Yeah, so and it's telling because at Martin Luther King, we had a Martin Luther King holiday. I usually cook for that for about 100 to 200 something people. Every year it's packed.
Yeah.
Every year we're out of stuff. The next day, people are coming and asking can they buy leftovers. so there's a sense that people want ethnic food in this town.
Yeah.
It's there already.
Yeah.
You just need to tap into
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And so I think we're talking big things now. For you as a team, think about the small things. I think can easily start thinking about using the space or as an event during the summer that you guys are interested in having in one of our houses. Like I can take 2 or 3 people that have beautiful houses where you're going to feel really proud to bring your friends, and then they're going to be really proud to have you as guests and as organizers or something. And it's a great connection for them. These people that I know is people who care about diversity, equity, inclusion. This is people who they mean it. They understand that it's not good only for them, but it's good for their family, for their kids. And we have a new generation that's coming up that feels to me more loving, more accepting, and have big hopes for the future. And part of our job is being accessible to those families. Any other questions? Anything else that you want to know?
Wow, I'm excited about it myself.
Good.
That's
Good.
pretty good.
Good.
There's some things here that I think that we can grasp onto and bring it up. And
We were reminiscing about the food festival like 2 days
Literally.
ago.
That's amazing.
We've been about this.
It was incredible. I can remember that.
And a bunch of people probably came, right?
Oh yeah,
it was packed.
I planned ahead. I brought
Did you
a
get to
certain
carry
amount of money
flags?
in a
'Cause
tray.
the
I
kids'
brought
international
to-go
flag
containers so I could get stuff
presentation
from
was
every
so
different
cute
place.
as well.
Although I never got to eat from the African Student Association because it was always sold out.
we would sell out first. We would sell out first. It was just crazy.
And there was a kids area, and there was a parade of flags, and like it was everything, and it incorporated the whole family, whether you came as an individual or you came as a multi-generational home.
It was amazing.
Final thought, just to throw it out here, if you guys are interested. So one of the things that I would like to do is through the foundation. Today, I'm sorry that I came from the beginning, the conversation that you and Tobin were having. But those conversations need to be more out there. It can't be to the people that would really understand. This has to be for people who want to learn even more and that didn't know about this stuff. So my idea is like having these kind of events, and one day having them like they get so big that it's in the Wilmot, right? And charging people, right? A minimum contribution. The foundation probably will cover 100% of everything, but then anything that is a charge can be fundraised for one of you guys' organizations, right? You guys just put together all the volunteers, make sure that all the stuff is. We get the venue, we get the speaker. We work with Murray and the university to make sure that we're aligned with the topics that we're bringing, and then again, charging $5, do a lot of advertisement. And knowing that it's not only, and if you can pay them, come, like right, we just get a donation of up to $500, $5, and people can donate more if they want to, but they know that the money is for this association, and they can go through the United Way, or can go through to community
and those
foundation.
Things are successful. That's how we run MLK community dinner afterwards.
Right.
Is that here's a suggested amount that you can put in, but if you can't afford anything, it's not going to prevent you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we do everything with pride too.
Yeah. And we know people who can, they do it. They're generous.
By and large, people will give something.
Yeah, exactly.
For the most part, across the board.
Yeah.
And then also the people who can't do not feel excluded. And so it's a win-win on both sides.
100%.
I think advertising you just mentioned is something I see student groups stumble with more than anything else. Just because life gets busy and it's not hard, but it's a lot to coordinate. And so, who's going to design it? Who's going to post it? Where we post, like all the things. And so that is a really great resource where the advertising agencies or radio stations or networks, they can't usually give you money, but they can give you free time. KBGA, for example, this college radio station, I have no idea what the listenership of it is, but they will advertise anything for any student group for free anytime. You literally just have to ask them, and they'll do it. And they'll read whatever it is that you give them and put it on air, and that is a hugely underutilized thing on campus.
I think that one of the learning lessons we have from this year in particular is that Jasmine is busting her behind on this stuff, and she has, and it's been, a lot of Jasmine. I'd like to see in the future to where we have designated folks that are in advertising, that are in different arenas, so that we can do these things. So I know that she's got some help, so I'm not minimizing that at all. I think that we need to make a greater effort in terms of doing these things to make sure that we've got it. You guys have done an incredible job at this point. I'm fond of saying the question is always, can we do better? And the answer is always yes. Well, thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime.
We got to ask more.
Some good answers.
Go to your bid change.
Yeah. Go lose your money. We're making money here.
I think they were saying about making money in the
Yeah.
I think they're talking about like Bitcoin
Yeah,
technology.
exactly.
So they're like, oh, we need to go this one. I was like,
You're like, that was in 2012.
I'm sure Jayton and Jason will do a great job too. You guys are doing a great job too. I'm really glad that I stayed.
good.
Alejandro, thank you.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely,
thank you.
absolutely. Anytime, anytime, and anything that can be a resource. Maury knows. He has been a resource to me with never ever expecting anything in return, and I appreciate his friendship. I appreciate his advice. I appreciate his listening when I have troubles, and this is my little way of giving back. And it's because of the effort that he has put on people like me in this town. So
It's greatly appreciated here.
Yeah.
Great.
Also, you said you were talking about catering.
Yeah.
So I'm a culinary arts major for the campus on the other side, not this main campus, but the River campus. I know a lot of students in that field would love to cater for anything.
We connect us with that, because that's what my idea is, that I have that when a group like we're talking Pride comes and say like, hey, we want to have a minute here, and do you have a list of different providers of food that we should be looking to? And I can be like, like, what do you want? Cookies, cakes, and all these people that are small businesses or students or families that you don't know until somebody creates that list. And then that list becomes public, right? We want to be advertisement there. So if you're ever looking people, if you're looking for a family, if you're looking, it's an easy effort. I know it's easier to go to Walmart or Costco and buy stuff, but it doesn't have the same effects, right? Yeah.
Exactly. I think that one of the things that's what you're looking at. You got the catering license is critically important. You've got the space. You've got opportunity for that space.
Yep.
It's going to be inspected and all those things. The
Yep.
license is the other thing that comes up. And you already know about food temperature. You already know about holding things and doing all of that stuff. That's what's important. If you're selling that stuff, you're going to have that catering license to work out of a licensed kitchen.
And is that hard to get?
It's not hard to get. They're going to come and inspect your place there to a very large degree. They're going to ask you what you're doing. They're going to ask you about experience. They're going to ask you a lot of questions along those lines too. But the biggest thing is that there's the space. The biggest thing is the space. Yeah.
And would you like to start your business, about catering business?
I mean, eventually, but I don't have like, once I finish college, I mean, I'm more going to be focused towards paying debt and rent and all the other good stuff. So eventually, I would like to. But.
Got it. Okay.
It's a lot of work, but I mean, it's rewarding as well too. It's really rewarding. And sometimes you get to a point where, for me, I just couldn't do it along with my regular job because you had too many people asking me to do it.
Right.
I got to stop.
Yeah. Also, another thing too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have Susie Joe as a caterer, she has her license, then Susie can hire her to cook, but the one selling the food is Susie, she has her license and everything. Is that, can she work under?
I can't answer that.
Okay, you don't know that.
No,
Okay.
it was just me and my partner.
Got it. Okay.
I mean,
you never know.
I think it is, like, if I'm thinking about my friend who owns like a mobile bar.
Yeah.
Like, everyone is ServSafe certified.
Yes.
He's the one who holds the license.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. What I'm saying that is because also that's another connection that you have with me in case this, and you know her, Marianne Foster. Yeah. So Marianne is pretty interested in having and she is the business development for you. So she's the one finding the business, she's the one invoicing, she's the one collecting the money. So I think she's interested in finding the diverse partners with diverse food that she can be able to offer to local, again, rich people who do events and be like, we would like to have some Guatemalan food, or we have some, I don't know, New Orleans food, whatever it is, and then she can be like, oh, let me call so-and-so, I need you to make me this, and then we share the profits. So it's a win-win for everybody. So that's another option that you have in case ever you need some, if you ever want the extra income.
Marianne's great.
Yeah, Marianne's great.
She was
yeah.
at the same Thanksgiving I was, and we got chit-chatting about Pride, and I was talking about how amazing the space was and things in the kitchen.
And she built that.
Because I also went to culinary school, and she's like, you know I designed that kitchen, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is even going on right
now?
We're sitting at the same table. When worlds collide.
That's amazing. Yeah. She's funny. She's like,
oh, she's a hoot.
Yeah, he's a hoot. Yeah,
especially with a couple glasses of wine.
Yeah, yeah, she's amazing. Hey, great to meet you all. I live literally in the corner of in front of the university. So if you ever need a drink or something to eat, just knock on the door. Okay? And if I'm not there, just tell them that you know Alejandro. Whoever is there. That's it. Yeah. Our house is always open.